Most gym owners have no idea what their gym is actually worth, and the scary part is the number they think they'd get if they sold tomorrow is probably way off. So today I'm going to walk you through the 10 factors that determine what a buyer would actually pay for your gym and why two gyms doing the same revenue can sell for completely different prices and what you can do right now to make yours worth a lot more. So here's a real scenario that plays out more often than you think. You got two gyms, same city, both doing $1 million a year in revenue. One sells for 1.2 million and the other can't find a buyer. Same revenue, completely different outcomes. And most gym owners have really no idea why, but Shark Tank actually has a little bit to blame here. People watched that show for years and walked away thinking valuation is just really some multiple of revenue. So they chase more members and more locations and bigger top line numbers, and then they go to sell and wonder why the offer they get is nothing close to what they thought it would be. My name is Mike Arce. I own several gyms myself, and through GSD Gyms, we've worked with over 4,400 gyms and fitness studios across 13 countries, 60 franchise brands, and hundreds of independent brands. And I've seen gyms sell for way more than their revenue would suggest they're worth, and I've also seen gyms that look great on the surface struggle to get even an offer at all. The difference almost always comes down to the same 10 factors. And even if you have no plans to sell, everything I'm about to cover will also make your gym more profitable and easier and more fun to run. So pay attention either way. Factor 1, profitability and EBITDA. So let's start with the one that matters most because everything else gets built on top of that. Buyers don't buy revenue, they buy profit. Specifically, they look at something called EBITDA, which stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Strip away the accounting language, and it basically means, what does this business actually make? A gym doing $1 million in revenue with 10% margins is a very different business than a gym doing $800,000 with 25% margins. The second one is worth more, significantly more, because a buyer isn't buying your top line, they're buying what ends up in their pocket after everything gets paid. 15% margin is considered decently healthy in this industry. 20% is pretty good. 25% is above excellent, especially if that already accounts for a real manager on payroll. And that's where a lot of owners mess up. Many gyms look more profitable than they are because the owner isn't paying themselves a real salary. They're doing the work of the general manager, the sales rep, a coach sometimes. None of that really shows up as a business expense. So when a buyer looks at those numbers, the first thing they do is figure out what it would cost to replace you. And if adding that back tanks the margins, the offer drops accordingly every time. Factor number 2, predictable recurring revenue. Predictability is what makes a buyer willing to pay a premium. Monthly memberships on autopay are the gold standard. When a buyer evaluates your business, they want to forecast what next month looks like before they sign anything. If revenue is steady and comes in automatically, whether anyone picks up a phone or not, that's a business worth paying for. There's a floor and they can see it. But if you're still running primarily on like class packs and punch cards or drop-ins, a buyer sees that as a liability. Every month to them kind of starts at zero. There's no guaranteed baseline. And that uncertainty gets priced into the offer in a way that you're not really going to enjoy. Monthly memberships aren't just better for your cash flow right now, but they make the whole business more valuable to someone who might just want to buy it someday. They're two things that rarely get said in the same sentence, but are both true at the same time. Factor 3, revenue growth trend. Buyers don't just want to see what your revenue is at today, they want to see where it's been going. So here's something that surprises many owners. Buyers care far more about year-over-year growth than month over month. They're not comparing March to February, they're comparing March to March of last year. And if that number has been consistently going up, even modestly, it tells them that the business has real momentum, that it isn't just one good season propped up by a promotion. A gym with flat revenue is a risk. A gym that's been quietly growing 10, 15% year over year for 3 consecutive years is an opportunity. And buyers will pay meaningfully for that difference. So start tracking your year over year numbers right now if you aren't already. That data is going to tell a story to whoever sits across from you in a negotiation someday, and you want that story working for you. Factor number 4, member retention. So the longer your members stay, the more predictable the income. The more predictable the income, the more valuable the business. And here are the benchmarks that you need to know. 92% monthly retention is considered decently healthy. 94% is considered good. 96%, very good. But 97% is excellent. And we got people doing 1 to 3% at GSD gyms. So if that's something you need a little help with, we can do it. Now, these numbers here may look close together, but they're not. To give you an idea, at 92% retention, that means you're losing 8% of your members every month, which when you break out that math, that means your average member stays for about 1 year. At 97%, however, you're only losing 3% of your members every month. And you work out that math, and your average member stays for nearly 3 years. So you're talking 3 times more value to every single member that you have. And if I'm a buyer, well, I want to buy that. The difference in lifetime value per member between these two numbers is enormous. And a buyer sees it the second they look at your churn rate. If your retention is sitting below 92%, that's not just a valuation problem, that's a business problem. And it's worth fixing regardless of whether you ever plan to sell, because a gym that retains members well is also the gym that spends less on marketing, they generate more referrals, and they run with much lower stress. So fix retention and almost everything gets easier. Factor number 5, systems that run without the owner. Now, this is where most gyms fall apart during a sale, and most owners never really see it coming until they're already in the middle of the process. Every serious buyer asks some version of the same question before they make an offer. If the owner vanished tomorrow, would this business still work? And if the honest answer is no, then the valuation drops fast, because what they'd actually be buying isn't a business, it's your job. And nobody wants to pay $1.2 million for a job. The gyms that sell for the most money run on documented systems. The sales process is written down. New member onboarding is written down, how you handle a cancellation, how you run a tour, how staff covers a shift, how you open and close, meeting systems. All of it is documented, all of it repeatable, none of it dependent on one person's memory or their personality. There's a simple test for this. Could you leave for a month right now and come back to the same revenue, or ideally more? If the answer is no, you have work to do. And honestly, that work isn't just about a future sale. A gym with real systems is a gym you can actually step away from occasionally, which at some point is going to sound pretty good. And by the way, if you want this presentation, you can just have it so you can go through it with your team. Just click on the link in the description, download it. It's free. I'd rather you have it than not have it. Numero 6, solid leadership team. Closely related to systems, but worth its own conversation, a buyer wants to know who actually runs the day-to-day, who leads the team when a problem comes up at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, who's accountable for hitting the numbers every month? Because if that person is you and you're walking out the door, they've inherited a problem. A gym with a strong general manager or operations lead who isn't the owner is dramatically easier to sell than one where the owner is the culture, is the energy, and the glue holding everything together. Members love you. Staff follows your lead. And the moment you leave, half the value walks out with you. That's a hard thing to put a price on, and buyers know it. So this is also the factor that takes the longest to build. Just as a heads up, you can clean up your books in a quarter. That's easy, but building a leadership team that doesn't depend on you takes some time. So if you're thinking about selling in the next few years, this is the one to start working on first. Factor number 7, clean books. So messy financials don't just slow down a sale, this kills deals. When a serious buyer gets interested in your gym, they're going to ask you to see your numbers. They're going to want to see your revenue. They're going to want to see your expenses, obviously your profit. And if those numbers are all over the place, if personal expenses are mixed in with business expenses, if things don't add up cleanly month to month, they're going to assume the worst. Think about it from their perspective. They're about to write a big check. The only thing they have to go on is what your numbers say. If your numbers are confusing, they're not going to sit there and give you the benefit of the doubt. They're going to lower the offer, add a bunch of contingencies, or walk away entirely. And it doesn't even have to be dishonest. A lot of gym owners have messy books simply because they just never prioritize it. They've got a bookkeeper who's behind, or they've been running some personal stuff through the business account, or their categories shift from month to month and nobody's cleaned it up. To a buyer, all of that looks the same. Risky. Clean books are simple. Clear revenue coming in, clear expenses going out, and a profit number that matches with what the bank account actually shows. That's it. If you're not there yet, hiring a good bookkeeper is a good first step, but if I'm being real with you, you'd probably want to join GSD Gyms because we show you how to do this all and we give you like templates to do it. Factor 8, location and lease. A buyer isn't just wanting to buy your business, they're buying into wherever that business lives. And those two things are tied together in ways that can make or break a deal. They want a location where your ideal member actually lives or works with easy access, good parking, low maintenance needs. And they absolutely need a favorable long-term lease, because the last thing anyone wants is to buy a gym and discover the lease is up in 14 months with a landlord who wants to triple the rent or mix things up. If you're coming up on a lease renewal, that's actually a great time to negotiate a longer term with renewal options. A 5 to 10 year lease with options doesn't just protect you right now, it makes the business significantly more attractive to a future buyer who needs stability before they'll commit. The facility condition plays into this too. A buyer walking through your gym is running numbers in their head the whole time. Every piece of equipment that needs replacing, every wall that needs painting, everything that hasn't been maintained, it all gets subtracted from the offer. They're not going to buy the business and then pour more money into it if they can help it. Everything that they have to fix is a negotiating chip that they'll use against you. Factor 9, diversified revenue streams. So a gym where 95% of the revenue is membership dues and nothing else gives a buyer exactly just one lever to pull. And that's a fragile business and they know it. The gym that attracts the best offers have revenue coming in from multiple places. Personal training, retail, supplements, specialty programs, nutritional coaching, some combination of streams that means if memberships soften for a season, the whole thing doesn't crater. And this also shows a buyer there's room to grow after they take over. A gym that's already diversified is one where someone with fresh energy and capital can walk in and immediately just start pulling levers. That upside potential is real money in negotiation, and it'll show up in the offer if you built it right. And number 10, well-kept equipment and facility. So, you know how when you're buying a house and the inspector finds a list of problems, every single one of those becomes a number that comes off the price? The same thing happens when a buyer walks on your floor. The cable machine that's been broken for 2 months, or the locker room that needs work, the front desk area that looks like it hasn't been updated since the gym opened. Every one of those things is either a line item in the negotiation or a reason to walk away entirely. Buyers do not want to purchase a business and immediately start pouring money back into it. They want to take over something that's ready to run on day one. A well-maintained facility signals that the owner cared, that there are no hidden problems waiting on the other side, that the business is worth what you're asking. So you walk through your gym right now, like you're the one writing the check. What would you notice? That list is exactly where your attention needs to go. So there are the 10 factors: profitability, recurring revenue, growth trend, retention, systems, leadership, clean books, location and lease, diversified revenue, and facility condition. And by the way, don't do what many gym owners do and just assume this all only matters when they're actually wanting to sell. They spend years building a business that runs on them personally with inconsistent books, no documented systems, and retention numbers they haven't looked at in a year. And then they decide that they want out and they spend the next 2 years wondering why they can't get the number that they were expecting. The gym owners who walk away with real money built their business like it was always meant to be sold, even if they never actually sold it. Every single factor on this list also makes for a better, more profitable, less stressful gym to run right now for you. The work that you do to make your gym sellable is the exact same work you do to make your gym run the way that it should. There's no version of this where you build a valuable, sellable business and it somehow isn't also a great business to own. So here's a question for you. If someone offered to buy your gym tomorrow, would they be buying a business or would they be buying your job? Your answer to that is the most important and honest assessment of where your gym actually stands right now. So here's something practical that you can do today. Number one, easy one, use AI to help you actually figure this out. Pull up Claude or Gemini or whatever tool that you use and tell it that you want to determine the approximate value of your gym and let it ask you a bunch of questions. It'll walk you through your revenue, your margins, your retention, your systems, and it'll start painting a picture of what your business might actually be worth to a buyer. And it's not a formal valuation, but it'll tell you a lot about where you stand and what needs attention. By the way, at GSD Gyms, this is honestly one of our favorite topics and conversations to have with gym owners because once you understand what drives value, everything starts to make more sense. How you hire, how you build your team, how you price your memberships, how you think about growth, it all connects. And if you ever want to learn more about what we do and how we work with gym and fitness studio owners, just go to 100kplan.com. And if you want this full breakdown of all 10 factors as a presentation that you can keep, you can just go through at your own pace, click the link in the description and download it for free. All 10 factors laid out so you can go through each one honestly and see exactly where your gym stands today. We'll see you in the next episode.